You're a man. You're an involuntary celibate. Do you have any idea how fucking lucky you are? You are. You are so fucking lucky. Do you know why you're so fucking lucky? Because, see, if you're born an ugly girl, that's it. That's it. You know, all the plastic surgery in the world, it's just going to make you look like an ugly girl who's had a lot of plastic surgery, you know? You get all the expensive clothes and expensive makeup, and you're just going to look like an ugly girl who's got a lot of plastic surgery and a lot of expensive clothes and a lot of expensive makeup, but she's still fucking ugly. But a guy can change. A guy can be an involuntary celibate, be a fucking zero loser, and by will alone, he can rise up and become fully the man he wants to be. And that's the beauty of it. That's the great good luck that men have. This shitty ass existence that we currently have, all the fucking society that we have, it's a fucking matriarchy that's just fucking horrible to men. But we have this one advantage. We can change. We can decide that we're going to fix a situation and make of ourselves something better. There is nothing wrong with being an involuntary celibate. Absolutely nothing wrong. Because we have all been involuntary celibates at one point or another. Sure. You know, the biggest Casanova himself, he was an involuntary celibate at some point of his life. And the fact of the matter is, most guys will be in celibate in their teenage years, and they will desperately want to fuck, of course. And they won't get anywhere, you know, when they're 17, 19, 23, 27 even, older even. Yeah. Lots of guys are late bloomers. Lots of guys are late starters. Lots of guys, you know, they fuck like bunnies in one period of their life. And then things change for whatever reason. Then they go through droughts. Some of them are pretty fucking long. I mean, in my own case, I've gone through periods where I haven't fucked in like a long goddamn time. Almost an embarrassingly long amount of time, you know? Enough time that I don't really want to talk about it. Yeah, it's perfectly normal, okay? Being an involuntary celibate, which is, of course, being a man who cannot get a girl into bed, who cannot get laid to save his life. It happens to everybody at different stages of their lives, and sometimes it goes for quite a while, okay? But the key fact that you have to understand is that, number one, this is not a bad thing. The mainstream media as of late is saying that it's like a bad thing, that involuntary celibates, incels, are like the fucking plague, for crying out loud. No. Involuntary celibates are just guys who are just not successful in the current deregulated sexual marketplace. They're not very good at getting laid. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay? I mean, would you say that, you know, it's a bad thing if you're bad at math, for instance? Or if you're bad at making money and therefore you're poor, even though you're a very decent person in all other regards? Of course you wouldn't say that, right? Right, but the mainstream media, they're fucking morons. I mean, they thought that the Iraq war was a good thing, for crying out loud, right? And they think that Trump got elected because of Russian bots. What the fuck do they know? They don't know shit, okay? So don't worry about what anybody says, that incels are bad, and if you are an incel, that you're evil incarnate, or that you're gonna, you know, shoot up someplace. No. You're just a guy who's just not very good at getting laid. And this video is going to explain how you get out of this hole. Okay? Okay. There's nothing wrong with being an involuntary celibate. What is wrong is to do nothing about it. What is wrong is to do nothing about it and just sit there, resentful, butthurt, angry, thinking even that you're entitled to sex. That's wrong. And there's no excuse for it, right? To just sit on your ass and do nothing and expect pussy, and you know, if you don't getting pussy like magically out of like the fucking thin air, you get angry and resentful and you start calling women whores and bitches and blah blah blah. That's wrong, okay? I mean, like, think of it in these terms. Like, say some guy was just sitting at home jerking off to porn and watching TV and playing video games all fucking day, and he was resentful that he hadn't gotten $1 million. You'd be like, what the fuck is the matter with you, man? How can you be resentful that you haven't gotten $1 million? What would you think if the guy was, like black-pilled and pessimistic about everything because, he hadn't gotten his $1 million that he believed he deserved? You'd think the guy's insane. And what if the guy is like saying, I'm entitled to $1 million. The government should give it to me. You'd be like, fuck off, you fucking loser. Right? Of course you would, because you're a sensible human being. It's the same with pussy. See? Nobody's entitled to pussy. You got to go out and earn the $1 million. Yeah, same with pussy. You got to go out and earn the pussy, right? But the great thing, and I'm here to tell you because I've gotten pussy and I've gotten $1 million, it is easier, magnitudes easier, to get tons of pussy as opposed to getting $1 million. Because I know of both, of how it is to get both, okay? So I'm here to tell you, okay, first-hand information. Pussy is magnitudes easier. Okay? Just keep that in mind. Shit, man. How many people are out there? 7 billion people, right? That means that basically 3.5 billion men got lucky. If 3.5 billion men got lucky, then it's not that hard to get lucky now, is it? Huh? Right. Okay. Now, the long and short of it is the way to get pussy is you got to get good at game. Okay? It's not more complicated than that. Now, what is game? Game is basically the mechanics of sexual seduction in the current deregulated sexual marketplace. Now, I'm throwing a lot of terms at you, and let me unpack that. Okay, now, game, what do I mean? You see, in order to get a woman into bed, okay, there are a certain number of steps that you have to take. Think of it like math. Okay, or better, think of it like calculus. Yeah, calculus. Okay, now calculus, if you know anything, calculus can be very complicated, in fact, intimidating to a neophyte, right? You start learning calc and it's like, hard, and you get very nervous. But then you get into the swing of it and it becomes kind of almost easy and kind of enjoyable. And then all of a sudden, you got calculus and it's like this great tool you have in your back pocket. And you use calculus and you build rockets to the fucking moon or build a bridge over, San Francisco Bay or whatever the fuck, right? Yeah, that's basically it. Game is calculus. You got to learn game to get girls. Now, there are a whole bunch of game gurus, people who will teach you game. You can go online. There are tons of different people who are teaching it. Just as out in the real world, there are tons of calculus professors. Some are very, very good calculus professors. Some are kind of mediocre. Some are kind of idiosyncratic. Some of them sort of like fit your style better. But, the way they teach and explain something, you understand it better. You're more attuned to that particular professor. And by the flip side, some professors, they might know all the calculus in the world, but you don't have that feeling, that simpatico thing going on, and you're just like, no, that calculus professor is not right for me, but this other one, this John Smith fellow over here, or whomever, this guy I can learn calculus from. Same thing with game. Same thing with game. There are tons of game gurus because, see, the steps are all the same. But like I said, it's calculus. A problem that a lot of involuntary celibates have is that, see, they don't have a lot of the building blocks necessary to learn calculus, to learn game. On a socials level, they haven't mastered their numbers. They haven't mastered their addition and subtraction and multiplication and division. They haven't mastered, basic algebra insofar as social situations are concerned. Okay? And so that's the problem with a lot of guys who are involuntary celibates. See, because if you think of math, right, you start learning your numbers. And then you learn addition, subtraction, division, and then you go into algebra and the quadratic equation, and you learn logarithms or whatever, and you get into and trigonometry, of course, and you get into pre-calculus and then calculus, right? It's a series of steps, right? So a lot of involuntary celibates, they're all jumbled together, and everybody says that they're an involuntary celibate. But see, if you start looking at guys, and this might be your case, see, a lot of guys are at different levels. Because this is the thing, see, all involuntary celibates, what do they want to do? They want to get laid, right? Sure, they want to get laid, that's the end goal. Now imagine that you're on this ladder of math, and the end goal is to build a bridge. Okay? You want to build a bridge across this river. Now, if a guy barely knows his addition and subtraction, he's going to be a lot farther away from building that bridge, right? Of course, because you need a lot of math to get there. Whereas a guy might be in pre-calc. He just needs a couple of steps to master calculus, and boom, he's going to be able to build a bridge, right? Right. So you got to figure out where you are on the scale of involuntary celibates. Are you this guy who cannot master even the most simple social exchanges? Or are you like higher up on the ladder and just need a little bit, you're at pre-calc and you just need to do the calc. Maybe you are even learning game, i.e. calculus, and you're almost there. You just need a little push over the top, right? You see? Because see, no matter if you're at the bottom in terms of learning math or almost graduated from calculus, right? In all of these, in this entire ladder of math, you're not going to be able to build a bridge. You lack the skills. At the bottom of the totem pole, when you're learning your addition and subtraction, you're at the very bottom, you have the most to learn. When you're at pre-calc, you have the least amount to learn. They're closest to the goal, but you still haven't reached the goal. So you got to figure out where you are on the totem pole, okay? And that's the important thing. And you got to figure out where you are on the ladder, not totem pole, that was my mistake, on the ladder of getting laid. You see what I'm saying? See? Because it's a process. It's a mechanistic process, which is the most important thing. And so therefore, if it is a mechanistic process, it means that anybody can master it. All the game gurus, they are all teaching the exact same thing. None of them is like Jesus or Confucius or Buddha teaching you something unique. They're not like unique philosophers like Immanuel Kant or Hegel or something like that. No. It's all the same. They are all teaching calculus. See? So what you have to do is very simple. You have to master everything from the bottom up to calculus, okay? My channel, this isn't about game, because you can find, like I said, tons of channels that teach game, and they teach, the minutia and everything, and like I said, it's calculus. Intimidating at first, but as you learn it, quite simple and quite natural, and after a while you get to enjoy it, okay? Because it is fun, okay? Seducing chicks is a lot of fun. Now, what do I mean by the deregulated sexual marketplace? Very simple. I did a video about it. See, after the advent of the birth control pill in 1963, what happened is that we entered a period of sexual free-for-all. Before the pill, there was the danger that a woman, if she had sex, she'd wind up pregnant and have a kid, right? And that was potentially very bad, because a woman with a kid, well, she's going to need somebody to take care of her, because a woman cannot raise a child on her own. She needs assistance. This is an evolutionary problem of human beings. That's why we have pair bonding. Learn a little bit of evolutionary psychology, and you'll realize that, see, pair bonding between a man and a woman is necessary because infants, babies, when they are born, they are helpless, and a woman has to take care of them. And because she has to take care of them, she cannot take care of the child and at the same time go and gather the resources necessary for her own and her child's survival. So she needs a man to help her. And that's why you have this whole issue of romance. And that's why men and women pair bond. And throughout history, the society around the man and the woman have created certain rules, certain regulations as to what was permitted and what was not permitted. And a man and a woman, they came together to form a family and have children, and there was a lot of societal pressure for them to stick together, because if they broke apart, who was going to be left taking care of the woman and her kid? Her extended family, the tribe. And what if the tribe is poor? They can't, generate enough resources to feed and shelter this woman with a kid, right? Well, the kid's going to die, or the woman might die. It's going to be a drag on the tribe. And so there was a lot of pressure for men and women to stay together. It was an evolutionary diktat on the one hand and societal pressure on the other. A lot of regulations, a lot of rules. But the pill threw that all out the window. You see what I mean? Yeah, with the pill, a woman takes the pill so she's not going to get pregnant, so she can go and fuck whoever she wants to, right? And so, because she can go and fuck whoever she wants to, who does she wind up fucking? The person that she finds sexually attractive. The person, the man, who knows which behavioral buttons to push and in what order so as to get her to open her legs and say, "Come here, baby, I want to fuck." Game is the codification of those behavioral buttons. Once you learn game, the calculus of the man-woman thing, you learn game and you're going to get laid. But like I said, game is calculus. How do you start? I mean, you're an involuntary celibate and you want to figure out where you are on the totem pole. Well, this is what you do. The first thing you have to do is you have to go to the mirror in your bathroom and you take a good long look at yourself. And you tell me, do you look like a regular human being or do you look like shit? You got pimples, you got scraggly beard, your hair is a mess, right? You got a gut, you're fat, you're out of shape, right? The first thing you have to do is you have to fix the package. That's the first step. This is the addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division of the process. You groom the outside of yourself. You're fat, you lose weight. This is easy. Your hair, your grooming, your face, everything from neck up. You go down to a hair salon, an expensive one. Don't chintz on this. And you spring the 100, 200, maybe even $300 for a really dynamite haircut. You want to look tidy. You want to look like a man. You shave. Your eyebrows, you clip them and tidy them up. You groom yourself. You take, I don't know, $500, maybe $1,000. You go down to a good men's store, okay? You don't half-ass it. Go to Brooks Brothers, something like that. And you go and you spring for some clothes, nice clothes. Clothes that will make you look good, not make you look like a clown. And again, you go to the service person there, the person at the Brooks Brothers store or whatever, and you tell him, I want to have a wardrobe that makes me look good. Not like a clown, not like somebody that sort of like is a little bit discombobulating to people. Somebody who looks good, who can go to a country club or wherever the fuck and will pass by, no problem. Not too formal, but not jeans, t-shirts kind of shit, right? And you do that. You fix the package, okay? Just by the fact of fixing the package, automatically you're going to feel more confident and in control of yourself. Now, confidence and being in control of your environment is extremely important when you get to game, when you get to calculus, okay? But in the initial phases, okay, when you're learning, like I said, addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, right? You fix your exterior package and automatically you're going to feel that sense of self-confidence, that you're in control of your environment. Because when you're well-dressed, well-groomed, with a nice haircut, clean shave, you're going to feel better. And that will naturally come out. So that's the first step. The outside package. Fix the outside package, number one. Number two, your living situation and your profession, right? Let's start with the living situation. You're living with your parents, leave your parents, leave your mom. Just go out in the world and get your own place. Be independent, okay? You get your own place, your own apartment, no matter how modest. I mean, shit, even if it's just a single room in a shared apartment, fine, but it's your place and you don't have your parents around, okay? A lot of guys who are involuntary celibates, I've noticed, they are sort of like beholden to their parents and their parents own them. And there's a lot of psychodrama going on and all kinds of shit that fucks with involuntary celibates' heads. Living with your parents, a lot of times in these relationships, they're fucking toxic. I hate to use that word because it's such a lefty SJW word, but it's true. It fucks with the guy's head. Whereas if he's independent, on his own place, in control of his own environment, it adds immeasurably to your sense of self-worth, your sense of dignity. So that's the first thing. Find your own place. Now, insofar as your job, your professional life, okay, you got some shitty ass job or whatever the fuck to pay the bills. Okay, fine. That's perfectly fine because, you got to pay the bills, right? But what you want to be doing is looking at your profession consciously and saying to yourself, where do I want to go? Where do I want to be in 2 years, in 5 years, insofar as my profession or my job? Picture yourself at that age. You're 2 years older, you're 5 years older. Ignore everything else, the woman thing, your friends, whatever the fuck. Just focus on your job and picture yourself as where you want to be in 2 years or 5 years or 10 years. And that becomes your North Star insofar as your profession is concerned. That's what you want to aim for. And you start fixing your job, changing your position in your company or whatever you're doing in order to reach that North Star, that goal that you have set for yourself in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. You know, if you're going in some crazy-ass job that doesn't work, you just move it around and start going in the direction that you want to. You see? And maybe you do have to be a wage slave and do some shitty-ass job just to pay the bills for a while, but you're thinking to yourself, well, I'm going to be doing this, but at the same time, I'm going to be aiming for that. And you try to bring your ship more towards your goal and aim it more towards your North Star. You see what I'm saying? Now, just the mere process of doing this, of evaluating your profession and consciously aiming towards, a better situation, again, that will improve your sense of self-confidence, that sense of like, you know where you're going. This is very important because, see, when a man knows where he is going insofar as his profession, insofar as his work, where he spends the majority of his time, this starts to permeate and percolate throughout his entire life. And people sense it. When you are confident in your profession, when you are confident in your professional goals, when you're like very clear as to where you are going insofar as your job, your career, your business, whatever, that confidence, that feeling like, fucking hey, I got this fucker right here, right by the balls, motherfucker. This tiger, I'm gonna squeeze this fucker's nuts until this fucking tiger is meowing, motherfucker. Yeah? When you got that vibe, people sense it. It just percolates through your entire life. It just oozes out of you. And people sense it. People respond to it. Women respond to it. Okay? Now, what have we talked about? We talked about grooming. That's like the basics, looking good, looking sharp. Okay? Don't try to be like freaky or do anything like original. Fuck that. Be standard and boring if need be. Like I said, hair, the shorter the better, just tidy, right? That's addition, subtraction, multiplication. Then, being truly independent and owning, not owning, but in the sense of living in your own place and controlling your own living environment. That's like, the algebra part, okay? And having a clear direction in your profession, in your business. That's like the fucking trigonometry part, okay? Now the third part, what we call the pre-calculus part of this ladder, okay, is you have to interact with everyone you meet. Anyone and everyone that you meet, you have to consciously decide that you are going to interact with them. And you have to set this goal. It's a very simple goal. You have to set the goal to yourself that you are going to interact with them, however briefly. And at the end of that interaction, as you walk away, they are going to be left with a smile on their face, happy to have interacted with you. That's your goal. And you want that goal for everybody you meet, without exception. Let me explain. Tell me if this doesn't sound like something that's happened to you. You're walking to an office building, say. An office building, yeah. And there's a doorman, okay? And the doorman is maybe in a uniform, like in New York City. You see it a lot in New York City and other, cities like that. You go up to the door, and the doorman, what does he do? Well, it's his job to open the fucking door for you, right? So he opens the door, but you feel like really awkward and shy because it's shyness and embarrassment that is eating you alive, right? And you're like really, really shy, and he opens the door, and you're like awkward, and you're like, you sort of like scrunch your neck into your chest and just walk through the open door with your arms like rigid by your side like this. I'm trying to do it, without laughing, right? It's hard. Yeah. Why am I laughing? Because it happened to me. Sure. When I was a kid, I was embarrassed by lots of social interactions. Yeah. And you walk through this door, and the doorman is sort of like, what the fuck is this problem with this guy? And you're just like incredibly embarrassed, and you walk through the door and you're just like sweating practically over this trivial social encounter. It freaked you the fuck out, right? And you bury this fucking awful memory, but it sort of like floats around there in your subconscious, right? And it makes you feel miserable. And you're shy. You're shy and you don't know how to interact with people, right? And you don't recognize that you have instinctively the most powerful weapon imaginable that can end this misery. And you know what that is? It's very simple. It's a kind look and a warm smile. That's the most powerful weapon you can possibly have. Let me explain. See, when I was a kid, when I was, I don't know, 14, 15, this happened to me lots of times. I was so embarrassed. I was constantly embarrassed. And as I grew older, I grew out of it. Okay? And I had certain situations and what have you that allowed me to develop a social ease. But because of this, as I've grown older, I've seen a lot of adults who still feel this way. A lot of guys who are involuntary celibates who still feel this way. They feel so embarrassed by the most trivial social interactions, and they don't realize how easy it is to solve the problem. It's a kind look and a warm smile. In the situation with the doorman, I do this all the time. What I do if a doorman opens the door for me, I look at him and I smile. I glance at him and I smile. Maybe I'll give him a little wave and go through the door. And what happens when I do that? Well, 9 times out of 10, actually 10 times out of 10, he smiles back. All I have to do is just smile. Look at him and smile. Maybe I'll just wave and say thank you. And that's it. I'm at the checkout, in the supermarket, and checkout girl, and she's like running my things, and what do? I look at her, I meet her eyes, I smile at her and say, hi, how are you? Thank you, and that's it. I don't try to make it a big conversation, just a few words, kind eyes and a warm smile, and you are set. And you got to practice this. You got to practice this basic social skill. It's very, very basic, but you would be surprised how many men, capable men, competent men who are extraordinarily successful in their careers, and they have never mastered this basic thing of just smiling and being happy to see somebody and saying thank you or saying hello, or saying have a nice day. Instead, they're a knot of nerves, a knot of shyness. They allow their shyness, their social insecurity, to eat them alive. And the way to get over it is just to practice it, to be self-consciously practicing it at first. And a lot of times these interactions are going to be very, very awkward because, it's something that you're not going to be very good at. And like in everything in life, you got to practice it. And practice takes time. And practice, of course, means that you're going to make a lot of mistakes and you're going to embarrass yourself. But after a while, you're going to get a lot better. You keep on working at these minor, trivial, everyday social interactions. You don't try to make best friends with everybody. That's a mistake a lot of people, a lot of tryhards do, because it seems insincere. It seems a little weird, like the doorman, he's opening the door. I don't want to be like fucking best friends with the guy, but if I stop and chit chat and like tell me about your wife, that'd be fucking weird. You don't need to do it. You don't need to overthink it, overdo it. But you just have to do it enough. You do it enough times, you start to realize, you start to get the sense almost instinctively, or actually, you get the sense completely instinctively with enough practice of how much is enough. And you'd be surprised, it's just very little. But this little patina will smooth your social interactions with just about everybody. But you have to go out and practice it. Just like you have to go out to a good hair salon and get a nice haircut, just as you have to go to a good men's store and get some nice clothes, just as you have to Go out, live on your own, in your own environment that you control, just as you have to set a North Star for your profession. You have to do all of these steps. The basic arithmetic, the algebra, the trigonometry, the pre-calc, and then you do game. Like I said at the beginning, practically, you find your game guru, the one that you like the most. That's all you need to care about. It doesn't have to be somebody very special or anything, just somebody that you like. And there are tons of them on YouTube and shit, right? This isn't hard to find. You find one that you like, you start following them, you start learning, you know, check out other ones just to make sure that the one that you picked is sort of like on the ball, is on track. Like I said, it's calculus. There are tons of calculus professors out there in the world. There are tons of game gurus out there in the world, and they will teach you basically the same thing. And the final step, see, of actually getting laid. Now, here's the obvious, see. In Europe, in many countries in Europe, including the Netherlands, you know, prostitution is perfectly legal. If you are really desperate, if you are an involuntary celibate and you're going out of your fucking mind, hop on a plane to Amsterdam, stay at an Expedia hotel or Airbnb or whatever the fuck. Go down to the red light district and bonk your brains out. This shit is easy, okay? This is not complicated, okay? It's not even illegal. It's perfectly legal for you to be living wherever you're living. Pick a ticket and a hotel on Expedia and go to Amsterdam and done. Okay? I mean, if you're really desperate. Now, if you are squeamish about it and all the rest of it, or if you're like, no, I never pay for sex, you know, I'm going to get like a girl, I'm actually going to convince her. Okay, fine, do the work. But you have to understand it's work. And it's a step-by-step process. And most important, like I said earlier, see, you can be at the very bottom in terms of your math education, or at the very almost tippity top, okay? But it's a quantum leap. You can be at the very threshold of knowing calculus, but you don't quite know it yet. Well, you're not going to get laid. Maybe by accident you do. Maybe you get a pity fuck thrown your way or some shit like that, but you're not going to be able to choose who to have sex with. It's more going to be like the woman decides, oh, well, you know, he's the only one around, so I'll fuck him. Okay? It's going to be that kind of situation, which is, of course, what you don't want, because you want to be in control of who you're fucking. You don't want to be just banging the dregs, whatever fortune throws your way, right? Fuck no. You want to be picking the hot women. You want to be picking the woman. Not be resigned to being, you know, the last one picked at dodgeball. You know what I'm saying? No, you don't want that. You want to be the one picking, right? Yeah, so you got to learn this shit. And it's a step-by-step process, but the most important thing is that, see, count yourself lucky that you're a man and you can achieve this. No matter how ugly you might be, no matter how loserish in so many ways you might happen to be, you'd be surprised. See, looks don't really matter in terms of getting girls. They matter when you're very, very young, when you're in high school and junior high. The girls like the pretty boys and they sort of like ignore the guys who are more homely, right? But after 18, they're in their early 20s and onward, it's vibe, it's game, it's a whole bunch of other shit. Looks don't really matter, but girls don't like a fucking mess. They don't want a fucking slob. They don't want some fat fuck who's like greasy from all the fucking french fries he's eating, right? No! They want a guy who's like, you know, more or less in shape, nice clothes, groomed, you know, that the guy has showered in the last 24 hours. Yeah, that's what they fucking want, right? Who wouldn't? Would you want to, you know, go and bang some lard-ass cunt, you know, who weighs about 300 fucking pounds and is as greasy as a can of Crisco? Would you want to fuck such a girl? I'm betting not, right? Well, same fucking thing, right? Okay, so you got to understand, you got to work with what we got here, see? See, I'm going to be doing more videos on this particular topic. You know, I'm going to just do the deep dive on the whole incel thing. And there are lots of other things I'm going to talk about, because I'm going to be winding down this particular episode, because as I see, you've gone quite a bit. But the other things I'm going to be talking about, I'm going to be talking about, for instance, the issue of confidence, how to get it, and what does confidence even mean? Okay, it's important to understand that confidence is something specific, and it has a specific use for it. Okay? I'm going to be talking about how to get girls, okay? Not game, but in the sense of more macro, and at the same time, what women are useful for. Now that might sound kind of weird, but start to ask yourself the question, what do you want a woman for? Why do you want to have a woman in your life? Is there a need to have women in your life? And the answer is yes, okay? And there are very, very good reasons to have a woman in your life, but you got to know why and which reasons at any given moment of your life, okay? Then I'm going to be talking about, like, for instance, the issue of MGTOW, men going their own way, which I've always been kind of ambivalent about MGTOW, but I'm sort of like coming to an understanding that MGTOW does fit in the panoply of the current sexual dynamic, but, in measured doses. In measured doses. I'm going to go into it. I'm going to be talking about alphas, guys who are alpha, and how any guy can be alpha, okay? Any guy can be alpha. It's not a thing that you're born alpha or born beta or born just fucking omega. No. Any guy can be the alpha, and not just relative to any particular group. He can be like an objective alpha. A guy who's anywhere on earth is like, he's a guy. I'm going to be talking about flirting, how essential flirting is, and how flirting is enjoyable, because that's something else you got to understand. If you're an involuntary celibate, a lot of guys who are involuntary celibates, they think that this is a fucking chore. It's not. It's fun. It's like when you start to master some academic discipline, like math. And at first it's intimidating and hard, and you got to grind it out. But then after a while you start to warm to the subject. And after a while it starts to flow. It starts to flow, and you just feel the rhythms of what you're doing. And then you realize how much fun it can be. I mean, shit, I remember like in class, back in the day, I'd have my problem sets right in college. It was delightful. It was fun. And it was hard and challenging sometimes. Sometimes, I'd be stuck on some problem for an hour trying to figure it out. But it was challenging, and it made me feel more alive. That's the same thing. That's the same thing with flirting and women and the whole thing. It's not a chore. It can be at certain parts of the development, but it is not a chore overall. At the end, it's delightful. It's fun. Think of it in those terms. And think of the last thought I want to leave you with. You're a man. You're an involuntary celibate. Do you have any idea how fucking lucky you are? You are. You are so fucking lucky. Do you know why you're so fucking lucky? Because, see, if you're born an ugly girl, that's it. That's it. All the plastic surgery in the world, it's just going to make you look like an ugly girl who's had a lot of plastic surgery, You get all the expensive clothes and expensive makeup, and you're just going to look like an ugly girl who's got a lot of plastic surgery and a lot of expensive clothes and a lot of expensive makeup, but she's still fucking ugly. But a guy can change. A guy can be an involuntary celibate, be a fucking zero loser, and by will alone, he can rise up and become fully the man he wants to be. And that's the beauty of it. That's the great good luck that men have. This shitty ass existence that we currently have, all the fucking society that we have, it's a fucking matriarchy that's just fucking horrible to men. But we have this one advantage. We can change. We can decide that we're going to fix a situation and make of ourselves something better. And that's fucking wonderful. That is our true advantage.